The vocabulary word is sustenance. Sustenance. Meaning of the word. Sustenance is a source of materials to nourish the body. It is the act of sustaining life by food. Example sentences. There is much sustenance in a cucumber. Without sustenance, the animals will soon die. He has gone for a week without sustenance. There isn't much sustenance in a cucumber. Individuals have to derive all their sustenance from a leader. The birds need sustenance to ensure they are fit enough to breed. The urban homeless are often in desperate need of sustenance. The earth brings forth large crops every year for the sustenance of man and beast. The vocabulary word is symbiosis. Symbiosis. Meaning of the word. Symbiosis is any interdependent relationship between groups or species which benefits all concerned. Example sentences. They live in a symbiosis with governments that they are financing. The song that almost reaches the sound of symbiosis. There is a symbiosis between large and small. The birds live in symbiosis with the cattle, picking insects from their skin to eat. One might almost speak of a complex symbiosis of different elements in society. She imagined us living in a perfect mother and daughter symbiosis. An eerie symbiosis of human and machine effort is also starting to evolve. A museum should strive to achieve complete symbiosis with the community it serves. The vocabulary word is abstain. Abstain. Meaning of the word. If we abstain from something, then we hold back, and do not do it deliberately. Example sentences. He is trying to abstain from sweets for his new diet. The doctor has advised him to abstain from smoking. The leaders ask their representatives to abstain from voting. People are requested to abstain from smoking in the restaurant. You should abstain from food and caffeinated drinks before the operation. To ensure that my heart stays healthy, I abstain from eating sodium. He took a vow to abstain from alcohol. Pilots must abstain from alcohol for 24 hours before flying. The vocabulary word is rhetoric. Rhetoric. Meaning of the word. Rhetoric is the skill, or art of using language effectively in order to persuade through speaking or writing. Example sentences. No one was fooled by the mask of rhetoric. What is required is immediate action, not rhetoric. Her speech was just empty rhetoric. Aristotle realized that rhetoric is a process. People don't want to hear the empty rhetoric of politicians. He spoke without rhetoric, simply, directly, but with great weight. His rhetoric sounds like the death rattle of a fading leadership. His fiery campaign rhetoric has kept opposition parties on their toes for months. The vocabulary word is conspicuous. Conspicuous. Meaning of the word. If someone or something is conspicuous, they are completely obvious, and we can clearly see or notice them. Example sentences. He was conspicuous among his colleagues. The notice must be displayed in a conspicuous place. Her outlandish attire made her conspicuous in the crowd. The event was a conspicuous success. It is conspicuous that smoking is harmful to health. A traffic sign should be conspicuous. I felt very conspicuous in my red coat. In fact, they are conspicuous by their absence. The vocabulary word is reconcile. Reconcile. Meaning of the word. If we are reconciled with someone, then we become friendly with them again after a quarrel or disagreement. Example sentences. The teacher had to reconcile disputes among her pupils. I don't see how you can reconcile it to your conscience. I can't reconcile those two ideas. They can't reconcile their differences. You must reconcile yourself to your present job. He could not reconcile himself to the prospect of losing her. The little boy does not readily reconcile with his sister. He could not reconcile his faith in God with unconditional obedience to Hitler. The vocabulary word is brandish. Brandish. Meaning of the word. If we brandish something, then we move, or swing it back and forth dramatically. Example sentences. A mob came over the hill yelling and brandishing sticks. She rushed into the office brandishing a letter. The demonstrators brandished banners and shouted slogans. He never brandishes his intellect. A man leapt out brandishing a kitchen knife. She answered with a brandish of her umbrella. She brandished a stick at the dog. The horseman came up to Robin Hood, brandishing his sword. The vocabulary word is susceptible. Susceptible. Meaning of the word. If we are susceptible to something or someone, then we are going to be influenced by them easily. Example sentences. Children are more susceptible than adults. The coating is also susceptible to stains. The operation had left her susceptible to infection. She isn't very susceptible to flattery. His statement is susceptible of another interpretation. Reporters are often susceptible to personal biases. Certain people are more susceptible to flea bites than others. Girls and women are more susceptible than boys and men. The vocabulary word is introspection. Introspection. Meaning of the word. Introspection is the act of observing and analyzing one's own thoughts, feelings, desires, and conduct. Example sentences. Potential managers should also engage in constructive introspection. Introspection is the best guideline for life. In a sudden introspection, we start to review the digital world. He had always had his moments of quiet introspection. These situations are best resolved with a minimum of introspection, or self-analysis. He is full of deep, wordy introspection about his fellow team members. His defeat in the World Championship led to a long period of gloomy introspection. The first year of management was a period of considerable introspection and personal growth. The vocabulary word is undermine. Undermine. Meaning of the word. If you undermine someone or something, then we weaken them gradually or by repeated efforts. Example sentences. She tried to undermine our friendship. Your true mission here, not to help me but to undermine me? She also said major implementation problems threatened to undermine the policy. These incidents could seriously undermine support for the police. His enemies are spreading rumors to undermine his authority. He constantly tried to undermine her self-confidence. The prosecution did its best to undermine the credibility of the witness. A heavy backpack is destined to undermine your traveling pleasure. The vocabulary word is consensus. Consensus. Meaning of the word. A consensus is a collective unanimous opinion or agreement of a group of people. Example sentences. The two parties have reached a consensus. There is a growing consensus of opinion on this issue. The general consensus was that technology was a good thing. The delegates will continue to meet until a consensus is reached. It took several hours for the jury to come to a consensus. It is difficult to reach a consensus about electoral reform. She is skilled at achieving consensus on sensitive issues. Failure to arrive at a consensus over the issue raised the specter of legal action. The vocabulary word is indebted. Indebted. Meaning of the word. If we say that we are indebted to someone, we mean that we are very grateful to them for their help or favors. Example sentences. We are indebted to her for her help. She is indebted to the library for most of her information. I'm indebted to all the staff who have been working so hard. In fact, I am even more indebted to the doctor. I am greatly indebted to you for your criticisms and help. For his education, he was chiefly indebted to his elder brother. I am indebted to you for your kindness. I am deeply indebted to my family for all their help. The vocabulary word is eloquence. Eloquence. Meaning of the word. Eloquence is the quality of being persuasive in the speech or writing by using the powerful and effective language. Example sentences. He carried his audience along with his eloquence. She was renowned for her eloquence. He inherited his eloquence from his father, a preacher. He gave it me with candor, and with a wild eloquence which touched my heart. Eloquence alone was sufficient to defeat the motion. We reckon with facts which cannot be changed by the eloquence. Your eloquence is amazing. The hired orators continued to pour forth their streams of eloquence. The vocabulary word is fallacy. Fallacy. Meaning of the word. A fallacy is an idea that many people believe to be true, but actually it is false because it is based on incorrect information or reasoning. Example sentences. He detected the fallacy of her argument. This is a common fallacy which has no basis in fact. As you probably know, spot training is a fallacy. Part of this comparison fallacy ignores the facts. It's a fallacy to suppose that wealth brings happiness. The idea that a good night's sleep will cure everything is a complete fallacy. It's a fallacy that all fat people are fat simply because they eat too much. The work also amply demonstrates the fallacy of that argument. The vocabulary word is abreast. Abreast. Meaning of the word. If people move abreast, they are next to each other and facing on the same direction. Abreast with something means being up to date in knowledge on it. Example sentences. A police car drew abreast of us and signaled us to stop. She could hardly stand with her feet abreast. The planes were flying 4 abreast. You should read the newspapers to keep abreast of current affairs. The farmer has to keep abreast of changes in the weather. Wages must be abreast of the rising living costs. This building is abreast with the tip of the island. The motorcyclist came abreast of her car and shouted abuse at her.